And the thing is that there's an answer, by the way, to addiction. People don't realize that you can upregulate your dopamine levels, bring it back to that of a normal people by taking amino acids. The essential amino acids will raise your dopamine levels, and you'll suddenly find that your desire to drink booze or whatever it is, if you're taking amino acids, will shrink dramatically.
Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings. This is WeAreChange of WeAreChange.org, and in this video, we are going to be discussing dopamine, serotonin, the war on fats, the sugar industry, soy, estrogen, and everything else health-related with, of course, our guest today, Clive the Carle, who, of course, is characterized as a restorative health consultant. So pretty much I think what we're going to be discussing here is health anarchy. You've been doing a lot of incredible work here. A lot of speakers have been coming up to you. And the one thing that I really take away from everything, Clive, that you've been saying is that there's so many misconceptions. There's so many things people don't understand. But one of the things that really kind of things that you said that really stands out to me is the difference between dopamine and serotonin. And when we're talking about health, and not just physical health, but mental health overall, I think this is a huge kind of misnomer that has been used against us. And I think understanding this difference between the two could really help humanity out in so many different ways. So I'm just going to let you have it and help people understand the difference between serotonin and, of course, dopamine.
Yeah, thanks, Luke. Well, dopamine is pleasure. So about 30% of us are born with low dopamine levels, and I count myself as one of those. And of that 30%, those ones tend to have addictive properties. So let's say you get to 14 or 15, and then for the first time, you experience pleasure in the form of a joint, or cigarettes, or alcohol, or sex, or gambling, or the internet. And suddenly you find you've got pleasure and your dopamine levels go up to full. But as we know with addiction, the problem is that where one beer is enough to start with, then you need 2 beers and 3 beers. And what happens is that the brain can down-regulate dopamine. So the more that you seek pleasure, actually, the less happy you get, because happiness creates serotonin in the brain, and dopamine is created with pleasure. So the advertising industry has confused pleasure with happiness. They'll tell you that buying the new iPhone or getting the new car or whatever it is will make you happy. No, that will give you pleasure and create dopamine. But the brain down-regulates dopamine, so after so much pleasure, now you need twice as much pleasure to get the same enjoyment factor out of it. Pleasure is something you can have by yourself. But happiness, on the other hand, you can't have too much happiness. Happiness usually involves nature and other people and joy and so on, and the brain can't down-regulate serotonin, but there is one thing that down-regulates serotonin, and that's dopamine. So, the more pleasure you seek, the more dopamine you make, the less happiness you get, because dopamine down-regulates serotonin. And you see it with addicts, Now they're taking all the drugs they've ever dreamed of, getting all the sex they ever wanted, but it doesn't mean they're happy. So the more pleasure you seek, the less happiness you get.
More money, more problems is the saying, and you just kind of explained the scientific backing of it. And it's important that you made a distinction here, because it's not only just the physical stuff, whether it's cigarettes or alcohol or drugs, or it's also the kind of psychological stuff, the kind of pornography, the also sabotaging behaviors. But I think one of the biggest kind of things that people need to understand, especially with the current kind of health system, especially in the United States, is that it has been heavily manipulated. This is what you kind of bring up in your talks and your lectures by, of course, big industries, by, of course, big money. And one of the biggest industries is sugar. And I think we're seeing the detrimental effects of sugar, not only with the medical system and how it's just clogged right now, but everywhere you go, everything you look at, whether it's even ketchup, whether it's a salad, it has sugar in it. There's, of course, information coming out that the sugar industry went on an offensive, of course, against fat. And as you've been saying, fat's actually not that bad for you, which, again, I would love to hear more information about.
Well, absolutely. So sugar's another dopamine booster, and it's addictive. And the thing is that there's an answer, by the way, to addiction. People don't realize that you can upregulate your dopamine levels, bring it back to that of a normal people by taking amino acids. The essential amino acids will raise your dopamine levels, and you'll suddenly find that your desire to drink booze or whatever it is, if you're taking amino acids, will shrink dramatically. I had a guy a couple of years ago explain to me that he didn't need to eat because 4 bottles of white wine a day was all he needed, but he was dying on his feet. So I gave him 8 months' supply of amino acids, which is what I had on the shelf, and I told him to take a month's supply every day. 10 tablets with breakfast, 10 with lunch, 10 with dinner. Within 2 days, he said he poured himself a glass of white wine as he'd done for the last 20 years and didn't want it, and he wanted to eat instead. So there are answers to this. But with the sugar question, what they've done, as you rightly say, is they're putting sugar in all the processed foods these days. But it's not sugar like it used to be, which was cane sugar. Now it's modified corn syrup, and all the corn, as you know, or most of it, 98% I think, something like that, is genetically modified. So the sugar we're getting is much worse than the sugar of 10 years ago, much worse than the sugar of 20 years ago, and the addiction level is frightening. So what happens if you get sugar? Well, let's say somebody's got cancer. There's only one food, if you like, that cancer eats, and that's sugar. So there's a cancer epidemic out there. Could it be something to do with the sugar? I reckon so. But let me tell you one really interesting thing. Did you know that over 90% of women with breast cancer also have root canal fillings? So this means that the cause of some cancers is dentistry. Your dentists are giving you cancer. Anybody who's got a root canal filling has got to realize that no surgeon on the planet would leave dead tissue in the body except dental surgeons. When they do a root canal, they leave some of the roots in there, which will, by default, get a bacterial infection, and people can die and get cancer because of their dental work.
As well as spread bacterial infections all throughout your body. Just from having a mouth infection from your teeth, it spreads to your heart, it can spread to your brain, it even kills people sometimes just from having a simple tooth infection. And if you had some dental work done, I think a lot of people who've had dental work done understand that this industry is flawed. There's something wrong with it. There needs to be much more research and development in that specific area because it's just awful. Awful what's happening in that industry. I've been personally dealing with it myself, and it's terrifying seeing the consequences of it and just the problems never going away. But we've been talking about that. You provide also, consulting for a lot of people. You have a whole membership thing, which we'll get into in just a little bit. But one of the other important aspects here is, for me, it's always everybody's different. Every body, every mind, every physical kind of organ and component in you all needs different things. I don't think there is one kind of solution or diet or vitamins or specific minerals a person is supposed to take, but there is a kind of bigger debate with the diet specifically, whether you should be a vegan or whether you should just do the kind of Jordan Peterson diet and only eat meat. What's your take on those industries? Because people always want just one answer. Just tell me what to do. Give me the simple, clear cut. Should I be a vegan? Should I just eat meat nonstop? What's your take on this big kind of diet debate that's happening out there? And again, I'm prefacing, everybody's different. There's no single solution out there, but what's your take on it?
Well, one of my great friends has gone through almost every diet you could think of. He's been vegan, then he went raw vegan, and now he's eating over 90% pure meat. He tells me on the meat diet that he feels better than he's ever done in his life, and he's muscly and looks great, but he's got really angry. And Jordan Peterson, I would say, while I admire a lot of what he says, he strikes me as an angry person. I get the feeling that actually too much meat is going to make you like that.
If I could just say one thing, Jordan Peterson, like him or dislike him, he's always angry. When is he smiling? I haven't seen him smile once. I'm sorry, go ahead.
So, I mean, if somebody was strong, but they wanted to do a detox of some kind, I would recommend a vegan diet, probably even better, a raw vegan diet for a month or so. Anybody who's type 2 diabetic, if they went on a raw vegan diet for a month, probably they would not be diabetic at the end of that month. Thousands and thousands of people have tried it, and it's worked for them. They'll lose weight, they'll feel great, their mind will probably be clear. But long term, I know lots of people who've been vegan now for like 30 years. Every single one of the long-term vegans usually uses words like, it was my great vegan experiment and mistake. Long-term, unless you really, really know what you're doing, it's hard to be healthy as a vegan because, like it or not, we are omnivores. We're made to eat everything, and they say originally we were hunter-gatherers, and hunting does mean killing things and eating them. I gave up meat for 25 years, but I now eat meat again, because when I do, I feel quite good, but I only eat meat that is, I'm sure, has not been badly farmed. If somebody gives me some wild meat, I'd eat it. But if it wasn't organic, I really want to run a million miles, because they're injecting them with hormones and growth medium. It's terrible.
Yeah, and even just the basic morality level of it, if you look at factory farming in the United States, they abuse animals. Animals that, could be treated with love and compassion, but when you have an animal just brought up in cages being kicked and abused and tortured, for what reason? I mean, and then also that kind of energy behind it, talking into the, of course, hippy-dippy stuff, of course, I think will have a detrimental effect on what you consume, because you're consuming a lot of that suffering, trauma, and pain that has been induced into this animal for the pure reason of profit by, mass corporations. But that's a whole other issue, a whole other things to get into. There's so many things to look out for. We could talk. You do videos for like an hour. We could talk for an hour. Before we get into your club again, I just want to just quickly run off a lot of things to look out for, especially with estrogen mimickers. That's also a major one. I think it's very clear if you look at society, like, hey, things aren't like what they used to, but things have also been changing, especially with so many different things, plastics. What can you tell us about the dangers of kind of also estrogen?
Well, absolutely. The two big dangers are water in plastic bottles, because the plastic bottles aren't set, and the plasticizers contain artificial estrogen, and I would believe it's feminizing men and making women sterile, making the men impotent. And then there's soya. If you're eating soya milk, or you're eating soya burgers or soya sausages, you've got to realize this is a dangerous estrogenic food. The Chinese and the Japanese used to ferment their soya, and then that makes it safe. But raw soya, like in the sausages, like in the milk, very, very dangerous.
And we still didn't even get into the pharmaceutical pills that are sometimes flushed into toilets or just running through people's systems that go into the sewage waste system that can't be filtered out. And then they're testing waters in all these different cities and towns that were supposedly treated, and all these chemicals from Big Pharma are in there, and predominantly a lot of them are not only estrogen mimickers, but birth control pills, and of course more and more people are even having problems conceiving children biologically. So there's so much to get into, but Clive, I just wanted to thank you for sharing just this little bit of information with us. You have your own kind of YouTube channel, which we're going to link. You also have your own kind of membership thing. Tell us about that. We're doing also a special promo code for you guys with the promo code WeAreChange. If you guys want to sign up for Clive and get more information from him, which we're going to email you, it should be also in the description. But just kind of your last words, where can people find you, and what kind of services can you provide for them?
Well, my website is clivedeccarle.com, and on clivedeccarle.com you'll find a page which says The Secret Health Club, and you can join the Secret Health Club. Behind a club you can say things that otherwise you possibly couldn't say in open society, and we've put together a lot of videos, a lot of articles that really are the key bits of information that everybody needs. You've got a nasty disease, you've got granny's got Alzheimer's, you need to know the real information. It's very confusing out there. You go online looking for the answers. They are there, but how can you be sure which answer is the right one? So I've spent the last 10 years refining these answers down into a fairly simplistic form, so you can put in autism or whatever it is you want to research and quickly find the real answers. Addiction, for instance, got articles and videos on each subject. Now you can join. It's a private members club. If you join with Luke's code, you'll get a discount, and it will allow you to get access to this information. Then each month I put out a masterclass. When you join, you'll get the first two, which are on eyes, because you may not know, but some of the really serious eye diseases, macular degeneration, can be reversed. The ophthalmologists very seldom realize this. There are clinics that are getting 80% improvement in vision in 80% of people. So people who think they're blind, they're never going to see properly again, are finding that their vision is returning. Similarly with teeth, there's so much that can be done to, people don't know, you get a cavity one morning, you can regrow that. You don't have to have it filled. Yep. So this information is incredibly valuable. And we're putting together also a health pack, which will be released in about a month's time, so that let's say that something went wrong, the internet went down, or there was no petrol, you can't get to the doctor, even if you wanted to go to one, and all the information to get healthy, cure your particular problem is on the internet, but how are you going to get access? You need the vital tools. Iodine would be an example, vitamin C would be an example, magnesium would be an example. So we're doing a pack that in the event of virtually any eventuality, somebody breaks their leg, you've got the information and you've got the tools to remedy the situation, whatever it is.
And that, of course, is promo code WRC with the link in the description. And it's important to understand here, there's a whole body of information that even if you start talking about it, you're automatically banned. You're automatically censored, and bigger institutions will just take it down. And it's important to understand here that everybody is different. But I think it should be understood by a lot of people that this problem is very systemic, especially in the United States. When you go to a doctor and you say anything's wrong with you, and there's like, here's antibiotics. No questioning, no testing, nothing. Just here, take some pills. You have a crazy story with antibiotics. I have doctors almost throughout my entire life just shoving antibiotics at me because of the dental industry doing work incorrectly, having to redo it again. I can't tell you the amount of headaches I had that could have been easily solved with just kind of shareable information. So I appreciate you sharing this knowledge and information with us. And again, like here in Mexico, I had a problem. I sat down at a doctor. Instead of throwing pills at me, he's like, let's take your blood. Let's actually see if you're deficient in any vitamins or minerals. Let's do a couple tests before throwing pills at you. And I had the same condition in New York City. Doctor's like, antibiotics, here you go. Bam. I'm like, that destroys your gut flora, destroys so much of your health. There's superbugs being created. Absolute madness. Don't trust anyone in the industry. Question everything, and the best way to move forward is with the whole body of information. Clive's giving a very important body of information, so definitely check him out. The link to his channel will be in the description below as well. And thank you so much, and thank you for watching and supporting real independent media. If it wasn't for you, we wouldn't be here, and that's why I say I love you guys. Thank you again so much for watching. Stay tuned for more here on youtube.com/WeAreChange.